The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at ethimarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethimarket.com. Ethimarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers. Each life we incarnate into has a divine purpose. For the majority of people on this planet, their purpose has eluded them. We have become so distracted with the struggle to survive that we have forgotten what we are here to do. In alignment with the sacred laws of nature, the ultimate purpose of all existence is to create and evolve. We certainly do not incarnate into life with the intention to destroy. And yet, we have come to live in a very destructive world. As a result, there are many out there who feel lost or adrift, whilst knowing deep down inside that something is very wrong with their reality. Many people wish they could do something of value, anything that is purposeful, instead of having to submit to a system of slavery in order to survive. It is important never to let go of that feeling. That is your soul crying out to you, telling you that your life has value and that you do indeed have a purpose. The most important thing you can do in life is to recognize your purpose, and often that requires a lot of soul searching. Life indeed dishes out some pretty tough challenges, which will either move you closer towards your purpose path, or will give you great training for when you finally realize what it is that you came here to do. But more often than not, the very clues about your life's purpose are hidden in plain sight, woven into the very fabric of our existence. But we are so easily distracted by irrelevant details that don't really matter, that often we miss the very obvious right in front of us. It is because of our willful ignorance of anything that does not fit our preconceived ideas that the truth about the nature of our reality is so readily hidden in plain sight. This is a very deep and personal journey, which has come to be expressed in many aspects throughout my life. This is not just an attempt to retell a bunch of research and pass it off as my own, for I am very grateful and openly acknowledge all the many wonderful people that I have been given the opportunity to work with and to learn from in order to get to the point where I've come to know what I now know. This is a journey I was always destined to go on, and likewise, how I have come to know this information forms as much a part of the story as the information itself. Hello and good evening, everybody. My name is Mel Ve, and this is Dragonology. Tonight is episode 10, and today is the 28th of May, 2015. It's 9 p.m. in London and Morocco, 10 p.m. here in Central Europe and my home country of South Africa, 4 p.m. in New York, and the next day in Sydney. Thank you to all of you who have tuned in, and for those who have been keeping up with the previous episodes of Dragonology, you'll be fully aware of all the elements of etymology and philology and symbology and every kind of ology you can imagine that we have been covering over the course of the series. And it's been quite a journey, and I want to thank everybody who has been following along. There's a lot of diligent and dedicated students who correspond with me daily about their word discoveries, and it's truly a blessing to see get these long essays, long letters from lots of different people. How excited this whole genre of information has made them. And I've really seized it and kind of started digging in and finding things and bringing things to me. And it's a wonderful community of sharing and interaction. So thank you to all of those who do continue as diligent students to watch every episode and who continue to write in and share all of your word and symbol discoveries. Please do continue to send all your stuff in, because I'm still on the path of learning as well. And chances are that if you found that, I may not have seen it. So we're all teaching each other here. And with that, I'm going to go on to a little bit of a recap of what we've been doing over the last few weeks in terms of the etymology, just in case anybody's missed out. Sorry if this is a bit boring territory for those of you who have been learning the whole serpentine dragon etymology aspect that really co-creates and interweaves into our reality through our language and perception and thought. But for those of you who haven't seen this, this is really a case of trying to keep each episode all-encompassing. So we do a bit of a recap, and for those that have, it's good just to build on the information you already have, which is why I guess I mainly do find this an interesting thing to do and of purpose. Okay, from the very top. Now, of course, before I get started, you notice it is in purple. Everything to do with dragon or serpentine etymology or dragon root words. We try to keep them purple because those born of the dragon bloodline are considered to be purple-born or porphyrogenitus. So this is why we specifically coded in purple. And it also happens to be one of my favorite colors. But yeah, so at the top we have the or, which is the most common serpent dragon root. And this would, for example, transliterate into the O-U-R, as in the word court or Ouroboros. And then, of course, the word A-R, that all transliterates into each other. And that would be, for example, the root of art or archangel. And then we've got the orf root word, which has the O-R and then the P-H, which in ancient Greek would have been the phi sound. And that then transliterated into Ophi. The R kind of got missing a bit, but the most common root is actually the O-R. The vowel sound at the after the phi has transliterated, and most vowel sounds are usually interchangeable with each other, as you can see here. Oh, I beg your pardon. As you can see here, we've got the I transliterates into the Y, which transliterates into the O, which transliterates into the A. Now, if you take the last three letters or characters over here on the O-P-H-A, you take it to the next line, it forms the first three letters of the god Fane or Fanes, which transliterates into pain, as in you feel physical pain or window pane, both from the same root. Phantom, of course, comes from the Fane root. Then Fae and Fairy. Then we've got the Pala Para Pio triad, and we're going to spend a lot of time tonight going through this one. We've been through this extensively, the Kolo, Kolu, Kula, Kulu, Kali. We're going to focus tonight on the Kali, Kali aspect of this particular group of serpentine root word
sort of collectives. And then you've got the jinn collectives, from the original word jinn, which is an Arabic or, well, it's been in many different cultures really, but you actually find writings about the jinn in the Quran, and it'll be written under the word J-I-N-N, but this is how it's transliterated, and we're going to be spending a lot of time on this again as well. And it started off with D-J-E-N, D-J-I-N-N, obviously to the J-I-N-N-G-E-N, and that, as we say, the vowel sound often transliterates out, and that became G-O-N. Then we go on to the Naga, okay, which are interesting characters sort of in Indo-Vedic mythology, serpentine deities, dragon-like gods, kings or rulers. And the word Naga actually is cognizant with the word naked, having the first two letters similar. And then, of course, snake, which is an extension of this root. And then the word spiro or spiro, which of course is the root of spiral and sprite. And then, of course, spirit and spit. And I would make that extension to spy, because the eye symbolism, of course, is very, very common within this realm of information. And then you've got the word host. Host, ghost, all right? Host, obviously, just add the G on. Ghost, gnome, goblin, and golem. Pretty much all from the same root, okay? And then we go on to Basileus, which is a Greek and Latin word for king or ruler. Basilica, which is a special name given to a Catholic cathedral, only very special ones. Basilisk, which is known to be the king of the serpents, capable of killing with a deadly glance, apparently. And then the word most similar to basilisk is obelisk. And then, of course, where we're going to start today is with the word the, and that forms the root of the word, many words, theosophy, thelema, theology. But the word the is the key root word indicating gods, rulers, royalty, and dragons. And, I beg your pardon, this the root turns up in Hesiod's Theogony, okay? Now, the Theogony, this is actually a 16th century script of the Theogony, hand written as you can see. But Theogony is actually very indicative, because you've got the the, which, as we said already, is gods, rulers, royalty, dragon, all right? The, and then the Goni. We're going to focus on that for a bit, the G-O-N, okay? It's often referenced as the theogony, okay? You will often see it spelt as well as being spelled with an O. It's often spelled with an E. And the theogony means, quite literally, genealogy of the gods, okay? So Hesiod's Theogony is basically a poem detailing the origins and genealogy of the Greek gods, who was related to who. So that's why we know that the word gon, which theogony actually is commonly, or theogonia, is commonly spelled with an O. In the older versions, it's spelled with an E. So that is how we've gotten to the conclusion that gon is actually a transliteration of gen from the original jinn, where you get gene, genius from. Okay, so theogony, we've covered that. Now let's have a look. Gon. The root word gon is rooted in, as we said, gene, gen, jinn, the whole jinn root. And this is an Arabic depiction typically of a jinn. And of course, the gon root turns up in the word dragon. And this is, of course, Dragonology, which is a study of dragon mythology. The word gon is also found in some interesting associations, and we've already covered off a few of them in the intro to the etymology series this evening. But let's have a look. The gon then becomes the word gone, as in here, then gone, suddenly, or that thing has gone. Go, which is another shortening of gone. It's actually a more direct verb to go. Gone is a bit more past tense. Go is, I'd say, the present tense of gone. And then ghost, which I would say is a very clear extension of go. And then host, which is ghost without the G. That's interesting that you have ghost and host so similarly spelled, because one of the things that you find being quite often linked in movies and stories with ghosts, of course, is possession and exorcism and stuff like that. You'll have a living human being a host to an entity that isn't the original spirit in the body. So this is interesting that it ties closely in with the word ghost. And try to also conscientize what we've said about go and gone, what their actual meanings are. So to be here and then to be gone, because that theme comes up again and again and again, like a ghost can be here and then can be gone suddenly. So from, as we said, gone to the gone with an E, go, ghost. From the root gone, we've got gone, go, ghost. And the words familiar to this, as we've already discussed, the words appear and disappear. Disappear is similar to gone. Something is gone, it may have disappeared, okay? And then it may reappear or appear, okay? Very interesting. So that has a similar to meaning. Gone has a similar meaning to disappear. All right, go as well, disappear, go, disappear. And then the word theophany has the THE root word and then the phane root word. It can also be theophania. There's also someone known as Saint Theophania, Theophania in Christian mythology. But a theophany is the appearance of God or the appearance of the Lord. So that's typically what a theophany is described as. And of course, with a phane root word indicating phantom, or typically what is a phantom able to do? A phantom is much like a ghost. It has the ability to appear and disappear. So the word ghost is synonymous with spirit. And the word spirit originates with the word spiro, meaning dragon. The word spirit is synonymous with the words ghost and phantom. And I'm sure you can start to see all the interlinking pieces coming together now. The word phantom originates with the word fanes, and we've covered the god Fanes quite a bit. He'll pop up again one more time before we finish tonight. The god Fanes, usually with a serpent wrapped around his body, are often depicted as somewhat androgynous, wings, and a cosmic egg in this particular depiction. And then from the word fanes comes the word fae, which references the fairies. And from the word fae, we get the word fable, which talks about, a fairy tale is another example, I'd say, a synonym for the word fable. Okay. Then we've got fantasy, which originates with the word fae, fanes, fantasy, fane, and fantastic. And this is a scene from Midsummer Night's Dream with Titania. And you can notice she's wearing what looks like a Phrygian cap. It's interesting. And Titania, obviously indicative of the Titans, the fallen ones. And this is Feme. Okay, Feme comes from Fanes. All right. Feme was a Greek god, and the word fame is rooted with feme. Now, we're going to just touch on this theme again. We spoke about it earlier, the interlinking etymologies with regards to dragons and royalty. For example, royalty are normally born in purple bedchambers and are said to be purple-born or porphyrogentius. Porphyrogentius simply means purple-born or born in purple bedchambers. So the dragons and royalty inextricably linked. The word dragon shares the etymological root with the Vedic word Raja. For example, the J and the G are interchangeable in sounds. For example, the G can sound like the J like the word Roger here, it can have the same J sound for the word George, which is typically spelled with a G, or in Spanish it's spelled with a J, but then it's actually articulated as a sound, an H sound, which would be typically what that would be with a J in Spanish. But what you've got here is Raja, okay, which would typically be, if you had to translate to be with dragon, it would be that root there, the R-A-G would fit into here, Raja. So dragon and Raja have an etymological link, okay? And this is a very interesting depiction of one of the Vedic depictions of, look, a god, an aquatic god with a tail and a human body. I mean, these beings turn up absolutely in every single religion. And notice the symbols they carry, okay? We spoke about this previously when we spoke about Kreda Mutua and Manly Pihul actually discussing how these beings came bearing symbols, right? Crosses, and this one being one of the most common symbols throughout many religions, much like the cross. Okay. The correlations between dragons and royalty are illustrated in the similarity of basilisk and basileus. Yes, we've covered that extensively. And then, of course, the Naga references a serpent king or deity, and Naga is cognizant with naked, which in turn is etymologically similar to snake. And we covered this off as well last week. Naked royal is symbolically allegorical of the dragon bloodline, much like in the story of the emperor has no clothes. And this is depicted in a very famous painting of a very beautiful woman. She was said to be the beauty of the age, Simonetta Vespucci, a noble woman of Genoa. Okay, notice the G-E-N. Genoa was obviously in Italy. And she is depicted obviously naked with a serpent around her neck. And she's said to be what likeness was used to paint this particular depiction of Venus, which was painted by Sandro Botticelli. Apparently, this is her face. There's actually meant to be Venus here as well. But this is her face that inspired this particular painting. And, of course, the nakedness, obviously, all indicative of snake or serpent. So dragon root triad, we've dealt with this one a lot. We're going to deal with it some more tonight. The Pala, Para, Pio root. Let's have a look at Pala. Pala makes many different words, okay? And let's go through them. The word pale or pale, pale horse, the word actual referencing something as pale is a reference to the quality of light. So something's either pale, the opposite of it is dark. We deal with light and dark quite a bit. Plant, we've dealt with the plant evolution of Pala quite a bit as well, Plantina. And then, of course, palace, where the royals live, in the palace, Palestine. And we dealt with how arts and art guilds largely controlled by secret society, dragon worshipping fraternities. So paint and palette originate as well from this pala root, as well as the word play and parler, of course, which is a French word meaning to speak. Then we've got para. Okay, now para comes up in paragraph, parable, parachute, paraglide, paramedic, paradise, Paris, pray, and of course we can have it said that it could be here in parlay, because parlay is very similar to the word play, isn't it? Okay. Now the pure root's interesting because the word parlay is very similar to the word here, parlay. If you put the E before the A, you have the word pearl. Okay, so with parlay, if you put the E before the A, you end up with the word pearl. Now, if you take the L away, you end up with pear. And then peer or peer. So that is another word for look, like we spoke about earlier. Spy from Spyro. Okay, that's another word for look. To peer, actively look at something. Or it can be a Dutch word for pear. That is the Dutch spelling of pear. All right. And then here's another spelling for pear, typically French, pere, or pear. Or actually, if you use if you talk about many pairs, you talk about pieren. That would have an N at the end in Dutch. So pieren would have an end there. And then, of course, this transliterates into peri, per, and pier, which can also be a thing that you walk out into the ocean. The word pier, and spear, which is pair with an S at the beginning, spear, which also is indicative of the root word spiro. So peri. Who are the peri? Those known as the peri are a race of fallen angels born of Iblis or Iblis, the Persian Arabic version of Satan, and that's a depiction of the peri. Now, this gets really interesting, and I don't know why I felt the need to put this in, but I just couldn't get over how connected dragons, sauces, and condiments, inextricably linked. Okay, so dragon sauce are the obvious one, of course, being you find sauces with all things Chinese, and of course, all things Chinese are normally related or themed with dragons, but you actually do get a really hot sauce called dragon sauce because it's, dragon fire. But what's interesting to notice is you get something called peri peri, which is this guy here, the race known as the peri, okay? So the food, marinade, or condiment known as peri peri is usually of the nature of being fiery, hot, and spicy. The name peri peri is a reference to the heat of dragon fire, which gives this condiment or sauce its distinctive quality. And you won't believe it as well, but mustard is also, funny enough, inextricably linked with dragons. Mustard's been historically linked to dragons, actually here in Holland and in France. We'll deal with the French one first. Mustard, Dijon mustard. Okay, mustard was very big here in Europe, and it still is. English mustard, the English use a lot of mustard. You get French mustard, you get Dijon mustard. The word Dijon contains the dragon serpent root DJ, okay, J, which comes from the jinn. The DJ is represented as a resting cobra in Egyptian hieroglyphics. Okay, you'll see it like this, and you'll notice it over here. There we go. There's the resting cobra. That's the J sound, and it normally indicates royalty. The English transliterative DJ originates from the word jinn, or jinn, as we've already been through, or Gen, as in gene. Okay, and that's a jinn with a human sacrifice over here. Has horns and wings. And as I said, here in Holland, you can't get away from dragons being connected to things. I've spoken a lot about this particular town here in Holland, Zwolle. This is one of the mustard towers of Zwolle, which exist as part of the remains of the medieval walls that surround the city, which was historically a massive trading stop, one of the Hansa cities. This was a place where mustard seed was stored and traded, was in these massive mustard seed grain towers. You can see the wall. They are really thick, this wall that surrounds the city. And here we go. Here's the city of Zwolle, okay? That mustard tower is around about here, okay? You can see them on the outside. They're all the way on the outside here, along this route. What you can see here in terms of this river, okay, is this particular canal going up through here. All right, and this over here, what we're looking at is the city seal of Zwolle from 1295. So just around about the Crusades, where you can see the angel St. Michael actually killing the basilisk. Okay, so St. Michael kills the basilisk. Very prominent theme because the basilisk comes up everywhere in this particular little city. So yeah, the basilica, which I'll be showing you now, okay, is located here in this particular little city. And St. Michael's Church is located here. All of them bearing depictions of this St. Michael killing the basilisk, the spear going through the basilisk's mouth. Okay, and here is that basilica with this huge big tower known as the Peperbus, which is a Dutch word that's translated to the English pepper pot because it's supposed to be shaped like a pepper pot. And this is the inside. And these tiles over here, and you can't see them too clearly, but they actually have basilisks. They're repeating tiles, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hand-painted tiles depicting basilisks on them, okay? Flying serpents, dragons. And of course, there's lots of angels and cherubim and seraphim and all sorts in the ceiling. So, no shortage of other dragon allegory, but you can actually see these are flying serpents on these tiles that surround the main front chapel bit of this. And then up here, I don't know, you probably can't see them, but when you close up, all of this is dragons in this particular line, linking one to the other. Okay, so we spoke a bit about the word pair last week and the week before. It's a very important root, and we're going to actually dissect it a little bit more and take it a bit further. So the word pair translates into several different spellings in several different languages, and in Dutch in particular, it's puur is the singular and puren is the plural, and we're going to be focusing on the P-E-R-E, because that is a very important root. So we've marked it in green, and it will correspond again later. Grapes. Grapes and vines are symbolic of the dragon bloodline. And of course, the word grape is etymologically cognizant with rape. And we dealt with rape and ritual and stuff of that nature last week and got quite heavily into it. We're going to sort of wind back into it and add more detail to it this week. The Roman word rapere, okay, so the P-E-R-E, means to rape and pillage, or pillage and rape, or to pillage or rape. Rapere evolved from the early Roman word rapere, which means reptile. Okay, both with the P-E-R-E root. Both reptile and rape in the early Roman languages had the P-E-R-E pair root, which is why you find the pair symbol turning up in so many heraldic depictions, whether it be coats of arms or various heraldic depictions in medieval chivalry. Lots and lots of pairs. Okay. Now let's look at this etymology. This is interesting. Okay. Rape. Obviously, we've said grape is similar to rape, but then grape is also similar to grave. And then grave is similar to grove. Now, why this is important is because we spoke a bit about the grove last week. We spoke a bit about grape and rape, but look at this grave. In this particular depiction of a dragon raping a woman, the woman appears to be in a grave, which is just extraordinary. So the allegory is ubiquitous and continuous throughout. Okay? So let's pop along to the grove now. The grove. The word lucus or lucius in Latin is a word that references grove or wood, usually sacred to a deity. And that's why you have a lot of this kind of thing going on, henges and stuff in woods and forested areas. And of course, Lucius refers Lucifer, or Lucas, if you want to call it Lucas or Lucius. Lucifer, the name Lucifer originates in Luxfer, meaning light bringer. And then, of course, Grove. We can't think of Grove without thinking about Bohemian Grove and all the various rituals and stuff that go on there. World's elite go there to meet for various rituals. And, of course, there's always an owl dedicated to Moloch. Of course, the word owl, the word knowledge has the word owl in it as a root, which is why the owl is normally a symbol of knowledge. So let's look at the common themes and what do they indicate. Okay. So spirits, ghosts, phantoms, and hosts. All right. So spirits, ghosts, and phantoms can appear and disappear, much similar to the nature of a theophany or theophania. They can also change shape, which is known as therianthropy, okay, or metamorphosis, which has orph serpent root word, and of course therianthropy has the root word in it. So this is interesting. Exorcism. Okay, so we look at these words: spirit, ghost, phantom, host. The host being possessed. Someone who's possessed is a host of a spirit. Okay, a ghost, unwanted phantom or entity. Okay. And we'll go on to tell you what those entities are called now. Notice it's called an exorcism. I used to think it was an exorcism with an E, like you exorcise the demon out of there, but it's actually with an O-R-C for a very good reason. Contains the most common dragon root word, O-R, and I would extend that to O-R-C, orc. Okay, we've dealt with the orcs. If you've seen Lord of the Rings, you know what the orcs are. Okay. Exorcism quite literally means an attempt at exiting or excommunicating an orcus. All right? An orcus is a serpent. They've been look at the way that we're depicted in Lord of the Rings. They can be depicted as basically they're referring to any sort of dragon-like being or flying serpent-like being, or spiritual dragon being or entity, because there seems to be a very pervasive theme that these things can change shape and become, can inhabit people. They can be spirit-like or actually physically, in your presence, touch them, see them kind of thing. So these themes come back again and again. You can't deny it. It's not just one place you find one person's account of this. They are reappearing. These themes come back through words. And this is interesting. The orcus mouth in the Garden of Bormazzo, originally created by Pierre, notice certain Orsini. Orsinis are noted by our dear friends Frank Collins as being one of the top 10 Black nobility families. Okay, so that's very interesting to note. Orcus, that's the mouth of the orcus. Now, this Garden of Bormazzo has got depictions of Melusine in it, the split-tail version of Melusine, and several other half-dragon, half-human-like carvings too, all carved into bedrock. Interesting to notice that the word sorcerer also contains the word orc in it, and of course orc being a common dragon root word. And then sorcerer has this word cere, C-E-R-E, much like the word pere, we've got it differently here. Ceres, the Roman goddess, sorry, I forgot the S over here. The Roman goddess Ceres is often depicted with a torch, Ceres is the goddess of agriculture and fertility. Now, agriculture and fertility is a theme that comes up a lot, particularly because of sacrificial and ritualistic rites. Now the torch is interesting also with the O-R root, and that's the O-R-C root actually. So that's orc again, right, in torch. Ceres depicted with a torch. Ceres is also depicted holding sometimes grain and entwined in serpents, of course. All right, now the spear. The spear is a very interesting word because it originates in two serpent root words, First, as evident here, you take away the S and you've got the pair, and which obviously originates from the para, pure serpent root word triad, But not only that, this could be from the spiro root too. If you took the A out, that could be definitely from the spiro dragon root. So that's interesting to notice. Spear. Spears are hugely symbolic. Spears and swords, And what's interesting to notice is the word sword contains dragon etymological root. The most primitive weapons of war, the first kind of weapons of war, if you think of weapons of war, both have dragon roots, and very noticeable. I really find it so fascinating that the word spear can actually come from two serpentine roots, instead of which would normally be the other. For example, Theophania, which has two dragon roots in the word. Spear actually originates from two separate roots. It hasn't got two roots in one word. Wow, that is a unique thing. It's not something I find very often. So again, the or root, a dragon etymological root, found in the word sword. And the sword is obviously placed here in the hand of Kali. We spoke about Kali because Kali is the Vedic mother goddess figure known as Kali or Kala, indicative of the dragon root origins, which come from the Kolo, Kulu, Kula, Kala, Kali root. Now, what's interesting to notice here, let's have a look at some of the symbolism going on. Of course, the ever-present serpent, this one's a cobra, and the halo or aureola or the light or the iridescent fire. Yeah, you've got the moon on the head, and we'll get into that in a bit. Okay, Mother Goddess Moon. But what the head and the sword represent is the sword represents wisdom or enlightenment, which is a common theme, we cover it off. And this represents the ego, okay? Sword and enlightenment cuts off the head of the ego. Isn't that interesting? So we climb into this theme a bit more through the word allegory. Let's have a look. The word sword transliterates into the word, because just take the S away, you have word into world, and world, we have Lord. Interesting, isn't it? So let's have a look at some of the English and Dutch transliterations, because they put out some very interesting themes and connections. And I am actually living in Holland at the moment, and my husband is Dutch, so this is first-hand knowledge for me. In English, a sword is obviously spelled S-W-O-R-D, but in Dutch, it's spelled Z-W-A-A-R-D, okay? And it said zwaard, okay? Now, zwaard, okay, is very similar to the Dutch word for black, which is swart, all right? So English read black, swart and zwaard are very, very similar in Dutch. They are cognizant with each other. If you speak Dutch, you would understand these two words are cognizant with each other. Dutch words for black and sword are cognizant with each other. So black or dark or night with a K. All right, so let's look at where the word night comes from. Nyx, the Greek goddess Nyx, is also known as Nox, Newt, and Night. The moon goddess over the years, okay, so basically Nyx was the original moon goddess, okay? Nyx is the goddess of darkness and night, which is why she's depicted with the moon. And much like the goddess, over here, Kali also got a moon, very common depiction on the head, yeah? So we got Nyx with the moon on her head, goddess of dark and night, evolved to be represented as the archetypal moon goddess, also known as the Roman goddess Luna. Now, Luna, we're commonly understood as referring to the moon, okay? Luna is a reference to the moon. You talk about lunar cycles, you talk about the moon cycles. The representation of the moon goddess was commonly known by the ancient Greeks as Selene. Now, the L-E-N-E is what happened to Luna, all right? They are the same root, Lina and Luna. As we say, the vowel sounds transliterate with each other, and they share a common root, Selene and Luna. Selene again here, shown with a torch, shown with a moon, and shown with this piece of fabric billowing around her, which we're going to get into in just a minute. Don't forget that piece of fabric billowing around Selene. That becomes important. All right. One more moon goddess. That was probably the most common one, Hecate, commonly referenced as a moon goddess. This Greek goddess was commonly depicted holding a torch and a key, all right, and often depicted with spikes coming out of her head, not unlike the Statue of Liberty, which normally it's a solar crown or a depiction of solar rays. She's often depicted in triple form with one likeness holding a serpent. So you can see there's three faces there, okay, Hecate's triple form. And she was variously associated with crossways, entranceways, the moon, light, magic, and dogs. Okay, light, of course, with the sun, and the dog's theme becomes prevalent in a second. This is what we're going to explore now. Torch, velificans, and dogs. Velificans, as we mentioned here, is this piece of fabric billowing around Selene. First off, the torch, okay? The torch contains the dragon root word or, all right? In fact, orc. Many gods are represented holding a torch or an orc. That's what the torch is meant to be. It hides the word orc, okay? The torch is a symbol of light, enlightenment, illumination, the Illuminati, or sacred knowledge. So what did we say here? That hectate is a symbol of light. Okay, so the themes all tie into each other. Good thing to notice is that many of the pantheistic gods hold torches. Here's one of Mithra with a sword in one hand, as we've already spoke about, sword very common with these gods, and a torch in the other. Here we've got Phanes with a torch, yeah, and a serpent wrapped around him. Oh, notice Mithra over here with a Phrygian cap on. And of course the Statue of Liberty with the spiky headwear, much like the goddess Hecate. Okay, and then of course the light in the form of the torch. The Statue of Liberty is originally based on the moon goddess Selene and was given to New York by French Freemasons. So let's look at the Velificans. Okay, clearly this is a multi-layered symbolic allegory. Okay, this Velificans, or Velificatio as it is known in Latin. This is depicted as a billowing garment. It usually surrounds a deity or persons of the dragon bloodline. The Velificatio plays the same role as a halo, aureola, or crown. Okay, you can see it in this. This is found in the Villa of the Mysteries, which is a very well-preserved Roman villa just outside Pompeii. It was covered in ash, but once all the ash was cleared away, everything was still preserved, including these full-color wall frescoes. Beautiful pictures in there. Okay, so Velificatio, let's have a look. Veli transliterates into veil. Veil means to cover, hide, or reference to the occult, because if you know, the word apocalypse means to unveil, uncover. So that veil means to cover or hide. And the second word, fissure, okay, as in series, okay, series, we covered that root there. Fascia or fascio are all etymological roots of the term that's known to us as fascism. Now, here we've got some more representations of the I can't even say it. Velificatio. There we go. Velificatio. Velificatio. Over here, we've got another one here. But what's interesting to note in this particular depiction is we've got a dragon, bull, and a swan, all very commonly always depicted as representatives of the dragon. We'll go on to the bull symbolism as a dragon god in a second. And here's some more depictions of the Velificatio. This one's over Neptune. This is a Roman mosaic, and you can see his horses are depicted as hippocamps. Okay, so Neptune and Pluto as well. You can see he's got Velificatio around him there. All right, we spoke about the dogs. Dogs are a common theme associated with Hecate, okay, much like the themes of light. So the theme of dog gods are common in ancient Egypt. The god Anubis was considered god or lord of the underworld and is normally depicted as a jackal or a dog. Anubis was replaced by Osiris as god of the underworld, and Osiris is normally depicted as the opposite of Horus, and or it can be said that Osiris is, another incarnation of Seth. I won't get into that, but you can see that there is depicted either green or darkly colored. It's interesting. Now, Sirius, okay, Osiris, Sirius, Osiris and Sirius are cognizant with each other. Osiris etymologically cognizant with Sirius, all right? And Sirius, of course, being the morning star, brightest star in the morning sky. And it's normally just below Orion's belt, points directly to Sirius. So this is the common root. The corresponding dragon root word Sir and Cyrus and Sirius. Okay. And we'll get back to that in a second, but let's just step aside here to cover off this dog etymology, the dog theme that we were pressing on. Werewolf. A werewolf is typically thought of to be therianthropic or shape-shifting. There's that theme that comes up again, able to shape-shift, and is often associated with the full moon. Moon symbolism again, Mother Goddess symbolism. The Dragon Seed, I reference this book plenty, a huge resource for me in this work, by Nicholas de Veer van Drakenberg. Okay, he's a prince, and extracts. And this is a book that has extracts and observations of the houses of Veer, Weer, and Collison. All right. Now, Veer and Weer are etymologically cognizant with werewolf. Okay, werewolf. All right. Werewolf. That is where that word comes from. So that is how, again, the dog theming tying into the dragon. Now back to the Sir, okay? Beg your pardon. Sir, let's have a look at this. The Sir ties in and transliterates to Sir, okay, with the ER, which is the root of serve, servant, serpent, and seraphim, okay, which is a group or classing of angels normally depicted with 6 wings. And this is a typical depiction of a seraphim. Guess what? With eyes in the wings, indicative of the watchers, those who peer or spy. Okay. And then Sir transliterates into mer. Okay. The S becomes the M. And mer obviously being the root of mermaid and Merovingian. We've covered this off extensively in previous Dragonologies. And of course, mer transliterates into Mel, transliterates into Mel with an A, and then into Mol. All right, and I've just stuck my book here because my name is Mel. Just the cover of my book there. Mel means dark. Okay, the word Melusine, who is of the Merovingian bloodline or the royal dragon bloodline. All right. Here holding the Holy Grail with a serpent on it, indicative of it. Melusine is normally depicted with 1 wing dark and 1 wing light, and even her name means light and dark. It's theme of night and day, light and dark, always comes up. Black is white and white is black. One of the most pervasive themes of Dragonology. Okay, so Mel means dark, and Lucina, like Lucifer or Lucas or Lucius, Lucina means light. Now, the Mel translation of MEL translating into, transliterating, I should say, into MAL, quite literally means dark or black. And you find that popping up in the name Maleficent, which is the most recent Disney classic. And I've covered off this quite a few times as well in previous Dragonologies. And then the Mol root, Mel with an A, and then Mol, which is the root of Moloch, the bull god. We spoke about how bulls, a huge theme. Okay, Moloch becomes a bull god with wings. And Moloch is often depicted like this as a bull. And you can see here, people will sacrifice their children to Moloch and pray down and worship this sort of bull god. Okay, and Moloch, again, is often represented as an owl as well, as you see in Bohemian Grove. That is supposed to be a representation of Moloch, that big 200-foot stone eagle or owl they have. Again, the word owl being the root of knowledge. Moloch is also known as Baal Peor, and we've covered Baal Peor in previous Dragonologies, and Peor obviously directly straight out of the Pala Para Peor root triad of the dragon. And this is a representation of Baal Peor here with a bull or stag head with a spear. Notice the spear in his hand. We've covered that off as well. That's interesting. All right. Sure. This was something someone posted on my Facebook page, and I couldn't help but include it in tonight's Dragonology. It's a piece from inquisitor.com, and I thought I'd read it all out to you and leave it. Hopefully some people will get back to me and tell me what they think, because With how pervasive dragons are and how interwoven they are into our society through our language, through symbolism, through absolutely everything, it's no wonder that people are seeing dragons. Or is this, let me read it and then we can ask the questions. Rare psychological conditions of the brain baffle many researchers. Many wonder what causes the strange conditions. Others wonder how to heal the patient, while some wonder if the conditions could be an effect of another unknown condition. A 52-year-old woman was found to have an extremely rare condition that has baffled nearly every physician she has ever attempted to determine why she sees people as dragons. The woman's condition begins after several minutes of seeing a person. Their face slowly begins to morph from a normal human shape into that of a dragon. The woman, whose name has not been revealed, has undergone many brain scans and other tests to determine her level of health and well-being. None have turned up any telltale signs of None have turned up any telltale signs of being ill. Fox News reported that even her blood tests were returned normal, leaving doctors baffled and confused. After much discussion and banter between doctors and psychologists, it was determined that she suffers from prosopagnosia, a condition that affects the way her mind interprets the faces of human beings. The Anglo-Dutch research team that took on her case, hoping to provide some insight as to why her mind alters the reality around her with a focus on the human face. One of the Anglo-Dutch research team shared what she sees when the condition alters her perceptions, according to the UK Metro. She could perceive and recognize actual faces, but after several minutes, they turned black, grew long, pointy ears, and a protruding snout, and displayed a reptiloid skin, huge eyes, and bright yellow, green, blue, or red. So the eyes are bright yellow, green, blue, or red. Interesting. I haven't seen many red or yellow human eyes. The woman has seen dragons her entire life, which makes the condition seem rather normal to her. It not only affects her while looking at human faces, but human-like items as well, such as power outlets, images on a computer, and more. She saw similar dragon-like faces drifting towards her many times a day from the walls, electrical sockets, or the computer screen, in both the presence and absence of face-like patterns. At night, she saw fat, dragon-like faces in the dark. Although the woman will suffer from this disorder for the rest of her life, psychologists from the Anglo-Dutch team have managed to prescribe an anti-dementia medication called rivastigmine or something that stops the hallucinations and rids her life of the dragons that have taunted her since childhood. Interesting. Now, one has to wonder, since there's nothing wrong with this woman, they can't find anything wrong with the tests, everything comes back normal, is she hallucinating or is she actually seeing something into another dimension that the rest of us can't see? And since this has affected her whole life and will continue to affect her whole life and is part of her everyday normal life and she functions perfectly well, doesn't seem to make her unhealthy or anything, and there seems to be such a huge research team that surrounds this. I mean, an Anglo-Dutch research team about one woman who just has visions. She could be making it up for all we know, okay? But she's not. There's a research team that's actually involved in this. That means that this is a real thing. There's people interested enough to actually send a research team out to look at it. Wow. Interesting. I think that this says a lot without saying too much. And I think this woman could be seeing more than what the doctors are willing to acknowledge. Perhaps she's seeing what's really there, other dimensions. Interesting. If anyone is interested in helping realize the project, which is the Encyclopedia of Dragonology, please sponsor and support the release of this massive body of research in full color book. We will only be printing it in one language and only need the funding for one language worth of printing, simply because Dragonology trots across all different languages from the perspective of the English language, breaking it down, and there's just so many different languages referenced within the Dragonology work. It would be nearly impossible to translate it into other languages necessarily. So just one language, and we really would love some support if you guys could please help us get this project launched. We want to get this printed up in full color. We've had huge demands for this work, but as yet we haven't been able to realize this project in terms of publishing. Dragonology episode 11 will view on the 4th of June 2015, so guys, please do tune in for that one. If anybody missed any episodes or would like to catch up, you're welcome to catch a high definition download at epimarket.com. All of our shows are now archived in high definition at epimarket.com, which is the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers. And you'll find all the shows from Conscious Consumer Network archived at epimarket.com. Each high definition show costs €5 per download. You can, of course, get them free in standard broadcast quality from YouTube, because we believe information is a common heritage of all beings and would never deprive it to anybody. So we make the YouTube archive available in standard broadcast quality. And if you want a high definition version, you can go to epimarket.com and download a high definition version of the show for €5. Or alternatively, you can become a monthly pledger for €10 a month and get unlimited access to all of Conscious Consumer Network's regular broadcasts, live shows, which are archived. We've got over 25 shows a week in multiple languages. So guys, please go check out consciousconsumer.network.tv and do please donate to us if you can. And as always, we thank you for supporting free and independent media. And we will see you for Dragonology next week. From me, Mel Ve, take care.
If you really had to make a difference on a large scale with minimal resources, how would you go about it? Have you ever dared to dream of doing that which seems impossible? On a planet steeped with corruption and destruction, the question beckons, how do we change it? Media has a far-reaching impact on people and has been used to manipulate humanity into our current destructive patterns. In order to affect people into moving into constructive patterns of behavior, we need to construct a new paradigm of media. Conscious Consumer Network has been created with the explicit intention of giving the amazing truth-seeking, solutions-orientated, alternative media a place to fully realize their true potential, with a cutting-edge, high-tech professional media platform being made available to use at no cost to the broadcaster. In turn, some of the greatest freedom-seeking hearts and souls of our time have realized the true potential of what has been created and have come together to provide their insight and inspiration on CCN. Conscious Consumer Network has become a unique, interactive information and educational network which provides a free-to-view, live-stream, ultra-high definition channel to the world and features 25 live shows a week and growing with the addition of multiple language broadcasts. CCN has features comparable with mainstream media, such as being able to pause and rewind broadcasts whilst being live streamed. Catch up on this or previous broadcasts, now available from CCN High Definition Downloads. You can now purchase a high definition download of your favorite CCN show from epimarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a monthly pledger. This can be done with a monthly pledge of €10, which will allow you unlimited access to CCN's high definition downloads, which hosts a back catalogue of over 250 shows which have been aired since the launch of CCN on the 1st of January 2015. In order to keep CCN free of corporate sponsorship and advertising, CCN has launched the Pledge 300 campaign. This is a realistic goal with the hopes of securing a minimum of 300 people who will each pledge €10 a month. With this number, we can continue to grow and operate and potentially expand into a second foreign language channel. Without it, CCN will simply not be able to function without succumbing to corporate sponsorship and advertising. Help keep keep alternative media in the hands of the people. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.